Okay. All right, good. So we're recording already. So once again, I would like to be talking more on price action trading, technical analysis, basically. And I was saying earlier on that every one of you should understand that price action traders are kind of like the most profitable traders when it comes to trading, right? And the reason is simply because you can stay very, very profitable in the market or in trading if all you do is analyze data from the past and expect a repetition or reversal of that data in the present time. So I had to go into USDJPY, and I'm looking at this from let's not go too far. Let's just stay somewhere close. Right. So I want you all to pay close attention to this. Now, for everything you see on the chart right now, there are swing highs and swing lows. Some of you call it higher highs, higher lows. Doesn't matter the English, they're all still the same, right? But if all I'm seeing right now is this, from October the year 2022, no, from September the year 2022 all the way to April, the month of April year 2023. If this is all I'm seeing, I could literally just go ahead and say, you know what, when price got here, this is the highest price did in the month of October 2022. So I could as well just do, okay, so if this is the highest, well, let me just identify this as the highest. Now remember, I'm not using technical words now because I want to believe that I'm also, should we? Yes, I'm sharing my screen. Can everyone see my screen? Can everyone see my screen? Okay, good. So now I'm not using technical words now because I'm believing that I have it at the back of my mind that I'm teaching individuals that do not know anything about Forex. I think it's better I work from that standpoint than to assume that, oh, everybody understands what I'm saying. So don't worry, I'm just talking about highs and lows. Now, layman speaking, this is a high point. Price literally got to this point, and when it got to this point, what happened? It started coming down. So the buyers went all the way to this point, and when they got here, the sellers took the baiting from them and changed the trend, changed the direction of the market downwards. Right? Now again, we can say that, okay, so sellers did bring this down. They brought the price of USD downward all the way to this point, to this particular point here, right? And then guess what? The buyers took it up from there, as in this case. Now, this is the data I have based on this present time. The year 2022, between the month of October 2022 and the month of May 2023. If I move this forward, ladies and gentlemen, remember, okay, wait, let's do this. Let's make this red. Let's make the resistance red. Yes. And then let's make the support blue. So let's make the ceiling. This is more like the ceiling. Let's make the ceiling red. Let's make the floor, which is the support, blue. Now, moving this forward, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to pay close attention to this. Just moving it forward. Hold on. Now, I want you to pay close attention to this. So this is where we identified as the ceiling, right? This is where we identified as the floor. Now, do you see how buyers successfully took price all the way up again? Yes, we had ups and downs, ups and downs, ups and downs, but despite the ups and downs, guess what? Price still managed to get to this point. Now, when it got to this point, would you say what happened here briefly was a repetition of what had happened there? Yes or no? What happened here like this? Would you say there was a brief repetition of the same thing that happened there, happening here again? So it simply means that if I was in this moment, I could have just made a clear decision to decide to sell when price got to this point without understanding any of the jargons about Forex. I could have literally just say, you know what, the moment price gets to this point, I'm just going to click a sell. Why? Because I expect either a repetition or a reversal. Now, this is a repetition. In other scenarios, you could have a reversal like this. When I say a reversal, this is it. Price doing the same thing it did here is a repetition. A reversal would be something like this. A reversal would be something like this, price coming here, coming down, and then going up. This would be a reversal. But this right now is a repetition. So what technical analysis does, it helps me identify important zones in the market that whenever price gets to in the present time or the future, it will either do a reversal or a repetition of what it's done in the past. So in this case now, price did a repetition. Let's move it forward a bit. And boom, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Pay close attention. At this particular area now, we have a what? A reversal. Because you can clearly see now that when price got to this place, again, it broke to the upside, came down here. You can see how it broke all the way to the upside. They still had to come back down to identify that zone before taking off again. This is a reversal of what it did here and here. But this right here is a repetition of what it did here. So technical analysis helps you identify zones based on past movements of the market, giving you a good perspective as to what price would likely do now or in the future. If you understand that, even as a basic person, even as a novice in Forex, put in one on the chat box. If you understand everything I just said, now put in one on the chat box. This is what technical analysis would do for you. Fundamentals will not do this for you. Sentimental will not do this for you. So you see the reason why technical analysis or a technical analyst stands out when it comes to trading, because you have something to work on. You have data to work on. There are things you're seeing that has happened in the market that you could literally say, okay, you know what, because price did this 2 years ago, there's a big tendency that it's either going to do this or it should do the reversal. And I promise you, we're working on the daily time frame. If all you're doing is this that I've showed you, right, and you understand how to identify the candlesticks in this process, oh my, I don't know if I want to dive, if I want to go deeper into candlesticks interpretation right now. But if all you're doing as a beginner is this and you understand candlesticks, guess what? You'd be a profitable trader. It's on any time frame. You would be a profitable trader, I promise you. Now let's take this downwards a bit. So I've talked about technical, I've talked about the reason. I just gave you the reason why technical analysis stands out. Now let me just go further to define what technical analysis is. It's simple. It's the use of support, resistance, and trend line. And someone now say, Emmanuel, well, what exactly is support zone? If you don't know what the support zone is, type in one chat box. Don't be shy. I told you I'm going to be giving you what you want and not what I think you want. If you know, okay, now when I say if you know what the support zone is, I'm not saying if you can identify it only. No, when I mean no, I'm saying if you can identify and draw a support zone, type in one on the chat. If you don't know how to do that, type in 0. If you know support or resistance, meaning if you know how to identify and draw these zones, type in one on the chat box. If you don't know how to, type in 0. Don't be intimidated by people who are typing 1. If you don't know how to do it, just type in 0. If you know how to do it, type in 1. Somebody say -1. Jesus. How? How did I just said 1 or 0? I'm seeing a couple number of zeros on this. I'm interested in the people who are putting 0, because guess what? Some of you have typed 1. By the time I'm done, you figure out that you're supposed to have typed 0 earlier. Some of you are typing 1. By the time I'm done with this training, you'd come to understand that, oh, I could have just typed 0 earlier, because what I thought I did know turns out to be what I don't know. Now, so this is the thing. I appreciate your feedback. I think we have a good number of individuals who have typed 0. I'm interested in just taking this from the foundational level. Now, there are 2 ways, 2 different ways. When you look at the chart like this, ladies and gentlemen, there are 2 different ways at which you could identify either a support zone or a resistance zone. But before we go there, let me do something. A resistance zone to a layman, I mean, if you're new, you don't know anything about Forex, this is what a resistance zone means. It's simply, I have some people who are using their video to disturb me. They're not focused on the chart, and it's just the fact that I'm seeing movement is really just a moment. Good. If you're focused with me, it's a different thing. Yeah, I think I'm better now. So, a support zone or a support area, it's a reversal area. Support and resistance are both reversal area. The only thing with them is they are the opposite of each other. A support simply means that price was coming down gradually, and then when it got to a particular point, it started going up. You see this particular point where price changed the direction to an upward movement. That's what you call a support zone. This is what you call a support zone here. This is what you call a support area or zone. No, let me leave it at area, a support area. This is what you call a support area. Right? So price was coming down, and then when it got to a particular point, what happened? Just a moment. Spotlight for everyone. Good. When it got to this particular area, it turned back up. This is a support area. Now, a resistance is simply that price was moving up, and when it got to a particular point, it changed direction. This right here is a resistance area. This right here is a resistance area. Good. This is a resistance area. Understand it that way. Support is a reversal of a downward movement to an upward movement. Resistance is a reversal of an upward movement to a downward movement. Now, when we understand this, we can now bring this into the chart and say, you know what? This is a downward movement. Price was coming down, then when it got a what happened, it changed its direction up. So we can say this is a support area. We can equally say, you know what? Price was on an upward movement. When it got here, it changed its direction downward. You can say this is a downward movement. Now, I've just been able to explain what a support and resistance area is. Area, not zone. Now, it becomes a zone. Pay close attention to this. It becomes a zone when you identify it based on these 2 parameters or these 2 conditions. If the reversal was a massive one, you can identify that area as a zone. What do I mean by massive? Pay close attention to this. We're actually on the 1 hour time frame, and so whatever it is I say from now is more practicable on 1 hour time frame and above. It's practicable on all time frames, but I'm saying it's more usable right? It's more usable on 1 hour time frame and above. Now, I was saying something earlier. I said it becomes a zone based on 2 conditions. Number 1 condition is if the reversal turns out to be a massive one. What do I mean by massive? Ladies and gentlemen, let's identify massive reversals right here. Now, good. I'm on the 1 hour time frame. So 1 hour, 4 hours, daily, weekly, this applies. Now, price, excuse me, please. USDJPY was making this upward move all the way to this point. And guess what? When he did that, did you see the massive drop right there? Massive drop. Should I tell you why it's massive? Who can give me a reason why this is massive? Why there's a massive drop here? Somebody tell me something. Why do you think there's a massive drop? Like this is definitely obvious. You see green candles, all of this. Do you know that this particular candle, just for this particular hour, it overshadows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it overshadows the previous activities for over 12 hours. Why exactly do you think we have that? Good. Somebody said cost of the banks. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Somebody said hit a resistance zone. No, I'm asking you now. Let's just assume we don't even know what a resistance zone is. I'm saying for the last couple of hours before this long red candle, we had the buyers and the sellers just tapping price between each other. The buyers will move it up, the sellers will bring it down a bit, the buyers will move it up again. That's literally everything that happened from here. See, starting from this point all the way to this point. That's what has been happening. But all of a sudden, guess what? You have this long red candle. You know what it depicts? The best indicator or your best indicator in the market is candlesticks. Now, what this candlestick, this particular one depicts is that it depicts an high level of volume. See, it's volume that moves the market. The amount of money pumped into the market at a particular time is what we refer to as volume. That is what moves the market. So if for the past couple of hours, you've seen a more like a stunted move in the market, and then price gets to a particular point and you see a massive move like this, it tells you one thing. It tells you that at this particular area, some people or a financial institution or several financial institutions pumped in money, big amount, huge amount of equity now, huge amount of volume to sell this market. That's one way at which you identify a zone. Because right now, it just simply means that this particular area is an area where you have equity. You have the sellers literally putting so much in the market here to sell it. That's why you have this red candle that came afterwards. So this is one way at which you identify a zone in the market. Massive reversal, massive pullback, massive retracement. That's one good way at which you identify a zone, not area now. If you understand everything I've just said, put in a 5 on the chat box. You know, we're not talking about area. We have several areas in the market. We have several support, several resistance zones. We have several support and resistance areas in the market. We're talking about zones. Because technical analysis is not just the use of support, resistance, and trend line. It's the use of support zone, resistance zone, and trend lines. People get it complicated. You just say, "Oh, I just need to identify support. I just need to identify support." Are you identifying a support area or you identifying a support zone? And this is how you get a support zone or a resistance zone in this case. It could be by massive. Now, this is a massive move here. Should I show you all something? Let me just extend this a bit, ladies and gentlemen. You see what I just did? So this particular zone now that was a resistance, will everybody agree with me that somewhere close to it, you have a zone, a support zone right here? Who agrees with that? I mean, I don't even need to ask who agrees. Is it not obvious? It's staring at you right in the eye here. It was a resistance zone here. You had this long move, but guess what? Where else did you get a long move? You had it somewhere around the same area here. You know what that means? This is a reversal of what happened in the past. It was a resistance here, but now has become a support here. And you can see the kind of moves. This long red candle, you can see a long green candle as well. So in other words, I could return this one to tell you this is a resistance zone here. If I want to identify a support zone, I'm looking at area where I have massive move, massive reversals. This is also another area of massive reversal here, ladies and gentlemen. Right here. Because guess what? Price was coming on. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, couple number of candles. But what happened? When the buyers got into the market, what did they do? This is a massive move. All of these places I just identified are zones based on massive reversal, massive retracement, massive pullback. Does that mean that in every massive sell zone, there will be a reversal? Okay, guess what? What makes you identify it as massive if it's not a reversal? Victor, you asked the question now. What makes you identify it as massive if it's not a reversal? You just answer your question. Your answer is in your question. What makes it a massive? What makes it massive if it's not a reversal? So that's by the way. But do you all understand what I'm saying? Now, this is just one condition. So you can identify a support or resistance zone based on massive reversal. Now, I want to ask a question quickly. For those of you that typed in, yes, you know how to identify and draw a zone. Did you see it from this perspective before now? I can't be going to the chat to start calling names of those of you that say one. But did you see it from this perspective before now? I'm getting lots of no on the chat box. So you see why I said, when I asked how many of you know how to identify support and resistance zone, all of you that were typing, I know. When we finish, you come to realize that, oh, you actually do not. Yes, there are ways at which you might have been identifying it and doing it, but now it's clear. Right? Now let's move to the second condition. I appreciate your sincerity. The fact that you could even come back here to say no means a lot. Now, let's go to the second condition. So this is just one condition. Another condition at which you can identify a support or resistance zone will be based on multiple reversals. Multiple reversals, multiple retracements, multiple pullback. Now, what do I mean? I'm going to use a diagram for this. I'm saying that if by adventure, okay, no, I don't want to use this. If by adventure, I add somewhere like this as a support zone, yeah, because I identified it. No, let's say I add somewhere like this as a reversal, as a support area rather. So area in the sense that price only came here once and moved up, right? So this is price. I'm just going to draw something. Price was coming down, got here, and it moved up. You know, this is how we identified area the very first time. Yeah. If it does this, and there's no massive move like that, if it does this and it comes back down again to this same area and moves up, ladies and gentlemen, by virtue of price reversing at a particular point twice or more, it's a condition that that place is also a zone. If you get price reversing at a particular area twice or more, that's also another condition for you to identify that area as a zone. Now, let me bring this into the chart. So this is what we're talking about here. Good. This is what we're talking about here. I want you to pay close attention. Remember, I said whatever I'm talking about is much more practicable on the 1 hour time frame and above, right? So if you look at this right now, price made a move up here, came down here, made a move up here, came down, made another move up here, came down, made another one up, down, up, down. See, you see this particular area right here, ladies and gentlemen? This right here is a zone. Why? The multiple reversals. And this multiple now, I'm saying, once you even get price, do that. Once you get price, reverse at a place twice or more. The higher, okay, the more frequent, or the higher the what's that word? The higher the number of reversals, the stronger the zone. So it means if I have price make a reversal here, just like this. If it does this one and does this two, yes, this is a zone. Quite all right, right? But you see a zone like this, with a zone like this where I have price come down, second time, third time, fourth time. This zone is quite much stronger than this. Because what this depicts is that despite the force of the buyers to want to take price higher than this, the fact that the sellers are refusing to allow price go beyond this, it's a big deal. This, in this regards, could be like this. Okay, so price, after I did that the first time, second time, decides to move up. A step at a time, Sharon. We're still identifying zones here. You're pushing me forward. Now, this with this shows a level of resistance. But the level of resistance here is quite more than this. Why? Because buyers kept on struggling to take price to this point. And guess what? They kept on meeting the sellers, taking price down. It happened the first time here, the second time here, the third time here, the fourth time here. But in this case, the number of frequency here is twice. Price got here, pulled down, got here the second time, pulled down, before finally breaking up. I would consider a zone where I have 3, 4, 5 reversals. I'll consider that one first before I look at a zone where I have just two rejection. Remember, we're talking about looking at data in the past to analyze what is happening in the market or what may happen in the market now or in the future. And let me bring this to the chart. So, good. I talked about this already. This is based on the number of reversals that occurred at this point. Yeah. Right? This right here is a reason for you to identify this as a zone, a resistance zone in this case. How many of you understood what I just said? Just by virtue of the number of reversals, you know, we did not take this as a resistance zone before. This is what we took as a resistance zone here, based on massive. We took this as a resistance zone here, based on massive. But I'm saying you can also identify a zone based on the number of reversals it has at a particular spot. Price came here the first time, pulled down, the second time, pulled down, the third time, pulled down, the fourth time, pulled down before it finally broke through that resistance. That's another good way of identifying a zone. Now, this is resistance. Let's look for support. I see our price. Guess what? I see our price came down here, pulled up, pulled down back, pulled up, pulled down back before finally finding its way up. Now, what does this mean here? I could also say, you know what? This is a zone right here. Like this. How? Because it did this the first time, pulled back up, the second time, pulled back up, came down the third time before finally finding its way to the upside. So basically now, right now, I think I've been able to establish the two different conditions at which you could use to identify zones. Am I correct? Put in yes or no on the chat box. I think I've been able to explain the two conditions you can use to identify zones on the chart. Yes or no? Okay, I have less than 5 minutes to wrap up. It's a 1 hour session, right? I have less than 5 minutes to wrap up. Good. I'm glad you all can attest to that. So let's take it away from here. Now, the next thing we want to do is this. We've been able to identify zones, right? We've been able to identify zones based on the two conditions, either massive reversal or multiple reversals. Now, how exactly can we also validate zones? Because, ladies and gentlemen, from the very beginning, I mentioned that the reason why technical analysts have a bigger edge in the market, price action traders, the reason why they have a bigger edge in the market in terms of profitability compared to fundamentals and sentimental traders is because they are able to identify data from the past and then they just expect price to do a reversal or a repetition of what it's done in the past. Now, that takes us into validation. So when I validate or when I identify a zone like this is going to be well. Okay, let's do this. So this is a zone based on massive reversal, right? Let's leave it with these two lines. I want to leave it at these two lines. Now, when we move back, guess what? It was a resistance here because price moved up and came down. Ladies and gentlemen, what was it here? It was a resistance at this point. This is where we identify it as a resistance. Price was a resistance at this point. Just join that line. What was it here? It became a support. That's a reversal of what it did here. Over time, if I have the opportunity, we'll take this to the next level of how you execute trades based on all of these things I'm saying. But right now, I'm just saying this is how you look at the market as a price action trader, as a technical analyst. But did you see what I just did here? This right here is what I identified. Do you see how it had a toll on this? Let me see if in the future price ever got to that point. Okay, didn't get there. Okay, but guess what? We identified this based on what it did there, Abi. Let's go back to the past. I love this. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on, just say something here. It was a resistance here. Can you tell we are still on the same line here? Do you see all of this here? Do you see it was also a resistance here? Can you see it was also a resistance here? Right? Taking it back. What was the resistance here? Do you see how it was a support zone here? Do you see how it was also a support zone here? Are you all with me? What we identified just based on that massive reversal, can you count the number of times price did a reversal at that same spot in the past? So if we could do this in the past, who tells you that when price gets here in the future, who tells you now that price is somewhere up here? If price comes down to this point, what do you think it will do? It would either do a reversal, it will either do a repetition and move back up as it did here, yeah, or it will do a reversal by doing this and then coming down here like this. So this first one would be a repetition. This second one would be a reversal. Be it as it may, was this so much for you to, do you think this is difficult for you to identify, even as a beginner in trading? Do you think it's too much for you to identify as a beginner in trading? If all you know is this. And let's do something here. We're still going back in the past. See, it's still the resistance zone. The line is still there. The line is still there. Let's see. I want to see if price. If I go back to that spot. Hold on. See. So we identified something, and I want to tell you how far back you can go. We identified this the month of September 2024. Pay close attention to this, ladies and gentlemen. In the month of February, no, it's easy when you're around, but when they want that's that's the perspective of the mind. But do you see that back in the, now that's really funny. Do you see that back in the month of March, the same area was a support zone? You see how far apart it is? This to make you understand that when you identify these zones, don't joke with them. Mr. Kevin has been, and this applies to all forms of trading, whether HFX or traditional forex. But I do know that Mr. Kevin has been, I don't know, in his practical trading sessions, definitely, you'd have seen him identify stuff like this. That's because these are very, very important zones. Very right? Very, very important zones. See, even all the way to the month of February. Right? Guess what? All the way to the month of February, this still establishes the validity of the zone. It still validates the zone. Yeah. In fact, guess we have January here. It was a resistance here. All of this still validates it still validates how authentic the zone is based on massive reversal. If all you can do, right? If all you can do is take it upon yourself to identify these zones the way I've explained, if that's all you can do, get better at identifying them. Guess what? In a way, you would have moved about 50%. You'd be able to solve 50% of your problem when it comes to charting. If all you can do is just identify, see, there are many massive areas here. This is also another massive, area. Guess what? This right here. This right here, I think it starts from here. This right here is a massive area. If I take it back in the past, did you see that? Right? Which I could extend this back to see if price ever got there. Oh no, it did not get there. It got there, but it would have been far, 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 far in the back. Right? Let's clear that off. This is not the one we identified. This is a new one. Yeah, this is an area of massive reversal. Yeah. Then I can just send this into the future like this. And let's see what happened there. I don't know what happened, but let's see what happened there together. Boom. Do you see what happened there? Do you see how it was a resistance here, right? And eventually became a support here because price literally did a break, did a retest, pulled down a bit, and found its way back up. At that particular, guess what? Do you see what it did here again? At this exact spot. So while this good, I think this is amazing. This is what you identified here. Price made a move up. Let me use this. So price made a move up here and then dropped here, making this a resistance zone, right? But guess what? It did a reversal because it made a move up here, came back here, and then made a move up. So this is a reversal of what happened here. But guess what? When it came down here, for those of you who you've been attentive with this, I said something, I was showing you something before. You know what he did here? He did this, came down here, pulled back up, and dropped. The same zone. So while this is a reversal, this is a repetition of what happened in the past. This kind of data, when you use data like this, 8 out of 10 trades, 7 out of 10 trades, 9 out of 10 trades, sometimes 10 out of 10 trades, you win them. Why? Because the market is bound to either repeat or make a reversal of what it's done in the past. Now, the only question is, how do I know what it has done in the past? I've just shown you everything relating to that. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, I think I have to step out of the way. How many of you got value from today's session? Yeah, I did not come here to say, okay, this is the setup. Mr. Kevin is the one that does that. Mr. Kevin is the one that gives you the fish. He teaches you how to fish and he gives you the fish. My idea is to just, okay, you know what? Let's just work on learning how to do the fishing. But how many of you got value from today's session? Right? It's been less than 1 hour. How of you count your time, count this whole thing. Right? So I don't know, sir, I don't know if you have one or two to say. For me right now, I think I'm done with it. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I don't know if you're there, sir.
Oh, this was massive.
You start cash out.
If you're speaking, we can't hear you, sir.
What would you? I really want to appreciate.
Okay.
On the chat, if you guys got value. At least a technical approach to price action. That's what you guys just experienced right now. Who value on the chat? Okay, so what I type on the chat, what did it?
Okay, I don't know if I'm the only one feeling it. So I don't know if I'm the only one who is noticing, but I think you're skipping.
I'm skipping. Yeah, man.
Okay.
What value you got today from our training? Instagram. Let's grow. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you for the training.
Yeah, I appreciate you, sir.
All right.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you all when I see you all. Take care. Have an amazing Tuesday morning. I know this is a call that has different people from different parts of the world. Have an amazing Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, and Tuesday evening. Peace.